we started making names right away. And I loved it. I was robbing drug dealers and taking their gold right off their neck. And the shit we did, who's going to call the police on you? A drug dealer?
I can identify with anything that was normal, to be honest with you. But I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
99% of the time, you're going to disagree.
Just like the Donnie Brasco situation with Lefty.
Yeah, because the reason why, they figure it this way. You brought this guy around, he ratted on everybody, now he ratted on you. You might turn around and join him and rat on us, so we get rid of you, there's no connection between there and there, and they get rid of you.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Jack O'Halloran. A lot of people know him from Superman, King Kong, Dragnet, but there's something about Jack you might not know. He is the son of Albert Anastasia. So you guys were giving protection to people on the boardwalk. How old were you around that time?
Well, I was about 15, 16 years old, 17. You know, every summer we increased our business. It was pretty good. And we took care of business very well. You know, we didn't shake anybody down or anything. We really stopped people from stealing from people and for disturbing their businesses.
Yeah, a lot of people had their hands in the pension, right?
Well, they did. After he went to jail, then it got Fitzsimmons was really... They scared Fitzsimmons to death. They blew up his son's car, and they scared him to death. And they took control of a lot of things that Jimmy would never allow to happen. And so he did, on the phone call, he started arguing back and forth. And they said, "Jimmy, please, you're on the phone. Just give it some time, and we'll sort it out." And he said, "The hell with this. I'll go to the press." And then the guy just hung the phone up. And that was the end of Jimmy Hoffa.
Wow. So
you're very sad.
It is, because I could tell he seemed like a great guy from what I could tell.
He was an incredible guy. He was an incredible individual, and he did a lot for the working man of the country. They should never ever forget that. He took them from one place and put them into a very good position. Teamster guys make a lot of money and they do well. That's all because of Hoffa.
Yeah,
if you're a Teamster driver on a film and you drive from one side of the city to the other, you're getting paid tremendous money. Just drive across the street, pick something up, and bring it back. It's sad. It was a turn. It's like another turning of events. Of the country. It was another thing to turn things around in not a good way.
Yeah, just like the Kennedy assassination and all that stuff. You do remember when that happened?
Jack Kennedy was, I like Jack Kennedy, but his father was the problem. His father fell into control of Chicago back in Prohibition era. And nobody ever talks about this. Joe Kennedy was a very, very bright guy. And I mean, he was a smart man. In fact, he was the youngest head of a president of a bank in the history of banking. He was married to Rose Fitzgerald, Honey Fitzgerald was a gangster from Ireland who came to America and did very well. He owned the Bank of England. He became a senator. He was a very strong political guy, and he dug out the Boston Harbor. He made it much more lucrative. And Joe Kennedy married him. He put him ahead of a bank. And then Prohibition came in, but he also controlled all the liquor coming out of Scotland and everything. So when Prohibition happened, Joe Kennedy and the guy from Newark, New Jersey that owned Fleischmann's Liquor went up to Canada, and they had a warehouse. And they were taking the booze up to Canada, and then they were bringing it back into America, bootlegging it. and there was a load of booze that was assigned to some people called the Purple Gang. We're a very strong group out of Detroit. And Joe Kennedy found a better buyer and swiped the load and sold it to the other guys. And the Purple Gang were very annoyed. And they said to him, "You're a dead man, Sunshine." And he ran home to Honey Fitzgerald and he said, I can't help you with this matter. You crossed the wrong people. The only guy that can help you was in Chicago. So he went back to Chicago and sat down with Joe Esposito and he said, "You're a very good earner, young man." He said, "You go home to Boston and I'll take care of the Purple Gang, but you belong to us now. You belong to Chicago." And he got involved with a lot of things that they were doing, and they sent him to Hollywood because they owned the film industry. And he set up the distribution deal for RKO Studios. He put all the Jewish theater owners together to distribute just for RKO. He did a lot of things, but he came involved with Randolph Hearst, and he got involved with a lot of people. And then in 1927, the United States, after World War I, we became a war-bearing country, and we started manufacturing war goods, and we took jobs away from Europe. And Europe had invested the money into America to make America grow. And they were very perturbed that they weren't getting a return on their money big enough that they thought. And now they're getting jobs that are being taken away from them and stuff like that. So there was a place in Chicago and Illinois called the Hamilton Club. It was like a political nesting egg for the president and a lot of political people. And they sat Joe Kennedy down and they said, "We want you to do something for us." And he stole $5 million from Pathé Newsreel in broad daylight. Nobody ever saw how he did it. No one could. He manipulated the stock and he, boom. So they said, that's extremely good. Now, this is what we really want you to do. They wanted to see if he could do something. And he put together what they call a short sell in the stock market. And it was aimed at companies in Europe that had invested in America that were squawking. One of the companies was owned by the Rothschilds, and it was run by a guy called Blackjack Bouvier, who was Jackie Kennedy's father. And he bankrupted them. The short sell worked extremely well for 4 days, and then they were taking a day off or 2 days off and coming back to finish it. And in the interim, the country panicked because the stock market was going crazy.
Yeah.
Because of these short sells, and the country, and it caused the crash. And they didn't do it to make the crash. It just was a remnant of it. It created the crash, which made them more money. And after the crash was over, Roosevelt said to Kennedy, "You did a great job, kid. Now we want you to take hold of the SEC and rewrite all the laws," because they knew that Europe had to reinvest back into America to get their money back. And they just changed all the laws in the SEC that made it more favorable for America. And when he did that by 1935, from 31 to 35, they said, "Boy, what a great job you did. Now we're going to make you ambassador to England." And some people from Chicago grabbed him and said, "Well, here's the deal, kid. You're going over there to be ambassador to England. We want you to speak to a few people that we know over there, and we're going to tighten the net up." And first guy he sat down with was the Shah of Iran, who was a gangster. And Kennedy was a very money-making, lucrative-minded guy. So he put together a deal with the Shah of Iran and a few other people, and they were lending money to Hitler. And with the money they lent to Hitler, Hitler came back, and they added a guy called Khashoggi to the same group, and they were selling weapons to him. And England found this out and said, "Whoa, you're supporting our enemy." And Kennedy said, "Well, America's not in the war. I'm not doing anything wrong. We weren't in the war yet." And they said, "But that's our enemy you're supporting." And they threw him out of England. And nobody knew how or why he got thrown out. He only came home as Ambassador Joe Kennedy because there was no television then. And the radio stations were owned by the Murchison family. and the newspapers were owned by the Gore family in Indiana for the East Coast and Hearst on the West Coast. So nobody printed anything detrimental as to why he came home from England. He came home as Ambassador Joe Kennedy. And then he wanted to make his younger son, the oldest son, Joseph Jr., President of the United States. And this guy was a great pilot, and he was just about ready to leave the service. He had about a month or so less before he was out and done home. And they put together a thing over in Europe where they wanted to fly a plane, like a kamikaze plane, into the munition factories of Germany to end the war. And they talked him into test piloting the plane. And because he was such a great pilot. And he test piloted the plane, and the plane blew up, and he died, and the plane died. And first Kennedy was killed. And they, a week later, scrubbed the whole thing. They never followed through with what they were going to do. It was a way of getting rid of a Kennedy. We're getting even with Joe Kennedy. And then his second son.
Yeah, so then they get his next son, right?
The President of the United States. And Sam Giancana, Joe Kennedy went to Sam Giancana and he said, I'm going to make my son President of the United States, and I need your help. And Giancana said, okay. And he said, and I lend you both of his ears. If he becomes president, you'll have both his ears. And Lansky and people in New York said, Giancana, what are you getting involved for? We don't need Kennedy. We already have Nixon. So why are what are you getting involved for? And he said, no, we have both his ears, and this should be good. We control Joe, and it's all going to be good. And when Kennedy came to California for the nomination, Joe Kennedy took a bag of money from the people in Texas. The oil guys put a bag of money together, gave it to Joe Kennedy to get Johnson to be the running partner for Jack Kennedy. And he went to Giancana and he said, the nomination's a shoo-in. We've got the electoral votes. And then after the second day of the nomination, he went back to Giancana. He said, well, we have a little bit of a problem. We don't have as many electoral votes as we thought. So for the very first time, Illinois and two states next to it went Democrat. They turned Democrat and gave him, the votes for the electoral votes. And they still were shy. And there was only one state. After the third day, Joe Kennedy went back again. He said, we're still a bit shy of getting him nominated. And the only state that was available that had enough electoral votes was West Virginia. And there were a lot of illegal casinos in West Virginia because there's a lot of money there because of the coal business.
Yeah.
And they went to the Cellini family, who controlled the casinos there with Meyer, and they forgave some debt, and West Virginia raised their hand, and Jack Kennedy got nominated. And as soon as he got nominated, now he's running for president. And it was a neck and neck between him and Nixon. If you look back on the election, it was really close. And it makes me laugh because you talk about the fixed votes of the Trump thing and all that stuff. And you go back to the Kennedy election, and I know for a fact, there were people in counties of Illinois who voted 20 times and they were dead.
Yeah, they're getting people from the graveyard to vote.
Voted
right?
20 times and they were dead. And he won by a very narrow margin over Nixon. It was a very close running. And he became president. And as soon as he became president,
What's good, everybody? Welcome to Chattin with Staxx. I'm back. So there's another part that's going to be coming out. You got to stay tuned for that. I'm going to be dropping that. It's in members only right now. So you can go over to this You can go in the description of this video and join members only and see part 4 right now. Go join members only and you'll be able to see part 4 of Jack's interview right now. And I hope you guys are having a great day. I got a lot more stuff dropping. Stay tuned. Hit the like, subscribe, notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And remember, don't be a bitch.